Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to create a card from the catalog. The stamp set I'm using is Celebrate Sunflowers. I decided to use this one this week because my daughter's birthday is this week. She's my oldest daughter and she'll be turning 20. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it. I'm going to have a 20-year-old daughter, and seems like just yesterday she was born. It's crazy. Lots of big events happening around here lately. So her favorite flower is sunflowers, so that's why I chose Celebrate Sunflowers to use this week on my blog and in my videos. Okay, so the card from the catalog that I'm using, however, can be found on page 50 of the mini catalog. Remember, the stamp set is from the annual catalog. But let me go ahead and show you this great card. Now, this card uses the Hello Harvest bundle, but I'm not going to be using any of this. And it also uses the Fabulous Frames dies, which are definitely on my wish list, but I don't have them yet, so I'm just going to use the stitched rectangle dies, which are also used on this card. So this is a great fall stamp set and very lovely. I have the designer series paper. I just don't have the rest of this. I would love to, but I don't. Okay, so we're going to do sunflowers and it's going to be great. There are several steps to this card. Scrap piece of
chair is so squeaky.
There's several steps to this card. I'm going to be using the Petal pink,
just a very
for the
subtle
card base.
shimmer.
It's on both sides, so you can flip it over and use either side. But I'm going to go ahead and
my
start first with the watercolor. I'm going to see 3.5 maybe see this shimmer on this paper. I'm using a shimmery
4 3/4.
This is way bigger than you need. So yours does not have to be that big. I was just giving you that so you get an idea of how big you need. I just had this one handy,
There
so
you go.
I just grabbed it.
Now you
Okay, so I'm using jet black.
So it's just a subtle shimmer on this
cardstock.
is
not an ink,
but
it's
very
very
nice,
nice,
and
it's
great
but
for watercoloring.
it is fabulous. And the one that I recommend.
The first thing that I'm going to do, I'm
anytime
going to try
no line
watercoloring.
Unless you're doing no line watercoloring.
Things I want to try for a while.
You don't want to use I decided this card would be a good one. But that is not what we're doing today. So hopefully it turns out the way I want it to. So I just have this scrap. So I'm going to stamp 2 of these. Cardstock. Going to ink it up really well.
And
already I have a couple little tips. So when you get stays on, you get a little plastic lid inside. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. So you get that plastic lid inside your actual lid. Don't throw away that lid. You want to keep it. And keep it on your ink pad. And then when you store your ink pad, store it upside down so that the ink is always at the top. When you stamp, make sure you leave room for the die to cut around this whenever you're finished. Okay, I like those nice dark images. So I'm going to pause the video and clean my stamp, and I always use my Stays On cleaner when cleaning these. After cleaning my stamp with the Stays On ink, I always go back and clean it with the Stampin' Mist and my Stampin' Scrub as well, just because the Stampin' Mist helps to condition those Red River cling stamps, and I want to make sure they stay in the best condition possible. Okay, so now I have 3 colors I'm going to be using to watercolor these sunflowers with, and those are Soft Succulent, So Saffron, and Soft Suede. So I'm going to start with the lightest and go to the darkest. And I'm using the lid of the ink pad as my paint palette with my water painter. So whenever you get water painters, these are amazing. You fill them with water, and then you can use them with your ink pads to watercolor. You get 3 in a set. You get a wide brush and 2 round brushes, and the round brushes come in 2 sizes. So I'm using the smaller of the two round brushes. I'm going to move this over here. There we go. That's a little bit more convenient, I think. So I'm starting with a very light amount of color and a little bit more water. And then I'll go back over these a second time and add a little bit more color and use less water. Since this isn't watercolor paper, but the shimmery paper, you don't want to get it too wet. If you get it too wet, you're going to warp your paper. But it does hold up a lot better than like just basic white cardstock would when wet. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in with a little bit more color. And this time I'm going to start at the bottom of each petal and go up. Okay, I need a little bit more ink. So I'm closing my pad. I'm giving it a good squeeze, and now I have plenty of ink to work with. Okay, so I'm just cleaning my brush with a paper towel, and I'm squeezing more of the water down into the tip and just brushing it all off before I switch colors. So now I'm going to repeat the process with the soft succulent and color the leaves. Okay, and then soft suede is going to be used for the center of the card. Not the center of the card, the center of the sunflower. When watercoloring the center of the sunflower, especially, I have found it can be very easy to get too much water and start warping your card. So just be very aware of that and do your best to stay pretty light-handed with the water. Final clean of the brush, and I'm going to set that aside and start die cutting. I'm going to start us off with those stitched rectangle dies, and I'm using the largest die to cut my designer series paper. So this designer series paper is Abigail Rose, and let me show that to you real quick. Isn't this pretty? So of course it's all double-sided with these beautiful floral patterns. I love this one. This is a great page to color. This is a good one to color also. I love that you can make these coordinate with any colors you want, because you can color them with your pencils or your Stampin' Blends. So that's Abigail Rose. Very, very pretty. Alright, so let me die cut this, and I'll be right back. I forgot to mention the original designer series paper that I had here, or not the original, but the piece of paper I had before I cut it was 4 1/4 inches by 4 1/2 inches. Okay, so once that's cut, I'm going to take a piece of that brushed metallic paper. So this is 2 3/4 by 4 inches. Brushed metallic paper is currently unavailable. It's very popular right now. So it should be available again for purchase. They're hoping the middle of October. So check back then to see. Okay, So this is the 5th smallest stitched rectangle die, and I'm going to center it up as best I can on this piece of paper, and that's going to be my frame. Okay, so there's my frame. There's my little piece of Post-it tape I used to hold it down while I was running it through my machine. And then I have another piece that I can save to use on another project. I always save those because you never know when they're going to come in handy. And I like to use every little piece of my specialty paper especially. Okay, so we're finished with these dies. I'm going to pull out the sunflower dies. So these coordinate beautifully with the Celebrate Sunflower stamp set. So I'm going to start by die cutting this outline of the sunflower with Saffron. So it looks like that. The next thing that I'm going to do is I want this more detailed sunflower, and I'm going to cut it with this Petal pink. But before I do that, I have this piece of adhesive sticker sheet. So it comes in a package like this. It's double-sided stickiness. You can cut it to whatever size you need. So this is, I believe, 3.5 by 3.5 inches. And I'm gonna just take one side off. I'm gonna put it up here in the corner of my cardstock. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I cut this out on that piece. Okay, so I do recommend running this through twice, just because it's got a little bit of an extra layer and it's pretty intricate. And you can use your Take Your Pick tool, the pointy end, if you need to push it out of the die, or to get any of these little pieces that you don't want out. All these tiny little circles, they like to stick around. So now whenever it's time to lay this down, it's going to be super easy because all I have to do is pull that backing off. And I like to use my Take Your Pick tool to help with that backing as well. Okay, so now I'm going to do the center of the sunflower. And I have just a scrap, it is a big scrap, but I have just a scrap of soft suede. So I'm going to run that through. So there is that piece. I'm going to clean up just a little bit. Okay, and next I have these two green pieces. So I'm using soft succulent to cut just one of each of these dies out. Okay, so there's those. And now the final sunflower piece that I need to cut out is the actual sunflowers that we painted. So I'm going to cut both of these out with the coordinating die that goes with that. So there are those sunflowers. So there's one last piece to get ready before we can start putting this together, and that is the sentiment. So I want a piece of basic black. Again, I'm just grabbing a scrap. I use so many scraps. So I'm going to have my white embossing powder and my little embossing buddy. And my Versamark ink is on this mess of a desk somewhere. Here it is. Okay, so start by prepping your cardstock with your embossing buddy. And then it's a good idea to actually get your stamp out. So I think this one is going to say, "Thanks a bunch."
And I'm just going to put it sideways on or crooked on a D block, and then ink it up with my Versamark. Okay. Try not to rock it. It's a little bit harder when it's diagonally on a big block like this. It just really wants to rock. Okay, so I'm going to cover that with my white embossing powder. I always like to tap it in one direction and then tap it in the other directions, just to make sure that it's covered from every angle before I tap it off. That looks great. Okay, I have just a few flakes. So now I'm going to set the heat, the embossing powder. I was having a really hard time that time getting it to where you could watch the magic happen, but it turned out great. Okay, so now I'm going to use my paper snips and just trim around that real quick. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces. I think I skipped a couple of pieces, didn't tell you about them, but I will as we're putting it together. Alright, so the first layer is this Petal pink card base. It is 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I scored it at 5 1/2 inches. So the first thing that we're going to put on here is this soft succulent background piece, and it measures 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch. So I will pop my handy ruler up there for you to see and be able to know, in case you need a little bit of help, which mark on the ruler that is. I know we don't deal with 1/8 of an inch very often, or 3/8, or I'm going to throw some 15/16 at you in a minute too, so I'll give you a little cheat for all that. Okay, so the next piece is that large designer series paper that we cut out with a big rectangle die. And then I have a little piece of vellum, and this is where that 15th, 16th comes in. So this is 2 11/16 by 3 15/16. So I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to the back of this frame. I'll do it on these wider sides. Frame is not exactly even, but it's pretty close. And then I'm going to put this vellum behind the frame. Just make sure that it's not sticking out from behind it at all. That looks great. Okay, so now I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue, again, right across the top, across the bottom, or that's the side, not the bottom, and then the bottom I can go a little crazy with because most of that's going to be covered up. Most, not all, so I just wiped a little bit off of that corner there. Okay, so this is going to go a little bit up and a little bit over. Looks good. So of course the next layer is going to be our sunflower. And again, I'm just using liquid glue on the back of it. Oh my goodness, I forgot to put our sunflower together. Oh my goodness, how silly. Okay, so I'm going to put this right about there. I'm going to peel the backing off of this part. I think I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to do that. And it's up to you whether or not you put the soft suede centerpiece behind this or in front of it. So you can put it like this, or you can put it underneath. I'm going to put it on top. I've tried it both ways, but I always think about a sunflower and how the center of it just seems to kind of poke up some. So I feel like it should go on top, but that's also just me. And I'm going to use a glue dot to put this on. I think I'll use 2 glue dots. Probably only needs 1, but I like things to be really stuck on there. So there's 1. You could also use liquid glue for this. But I've got my glue dots sitting here, so why not? There we go. Okay, so now I want to put these on. And the way I'm going to do that is, again, just a couple of glue dots, because the bottoms are going to be hidden. And I'm not going to put any adhesive on the top. So I just want a little bit of glue dot on the bottoms. So 1 there. Oh, I just realized you can't see what I'm doing. And 1 here. And boy, that is sticking to me. There's that one. And then I'm going to put 2 more on this other one. And again, you could use liquid glue if you want to. Just put it on the wider leaves down here towards the bottom. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to put my sunflowers on. I'm trying to decide how I want these to go. So I think I'm going to put that one like that. And this one I'm going to put, let's see, maybe I should put one this way. I thought I had this all figured out earlier. Now I'm second guessing myself. So just like that, I believe. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use Stampin' Dimensionals to put these on. So I'm going to put one here, and one here, and one down here. I moved to the wrong one. This one needs to come down a little bit more. Put it right there on the leaf. I'm trying to make it to where the dimensionals are not on these green parts. There we go. I made that look way more difficult than it is. Okay, then this one can go here, but again, I don't want that dimensional to be on that flower, so I'm going to move the dimensional more towards the bottom here. Let's see how that works out. Oh, I like it. Okay, so that's going to go there. I am going to add one more dimensional up here at the top. Otherwise, it's just going to be weird. Flappy. Okay, that's good. So this piece, then I can just glue across the bottom of these sunflowers. So some of this card I had pre-planned, and some of this card I obviously hadn't completely figured out. I thought I did, but not totally. Oh, I like that. Okay, so let me show you the original card again that was in the catalog. Remember, it was a totally different stamp set. So we used Celebrate Sunflowers, and the card in the catalog used Hello Harvest. So what do you think? I really like that. And I'm really curious as to whether or not you put your centerpiece of your sunflower on top or underneath. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. That's just how my overthinking process went whenever I was trying to figure that out. Okay, that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions about this card, as always, feel free to send me a message, and I will do my best to get back to you and answer your question. And if I don't know the answer, then I'll try to find somebody that does and can help us out. All right, if you have any cards from the catalog from a current publication from Stampin' Up! That you would like to see a video created for, let me know and I'll do my best to either create that version exactly like it is in the catalog or to create my own little tweaked version of it. And if you need any stamping supplies, if there was something that you just fell in love with in this video and you have to have, then you can hop on over to my website and purchase that online at any time. I do ask that you use my current host code that you can find over on my blog or my Facebook page if you're placing an order under $150. That just helps me out whenever I'm and keeps me going on making these videos. Thank you so much for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this, and if you haven't already and you would like to see more, then hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. Happy stamping.